Chen Ze traveled to a world of cultivation where the pursuit of the Tao was prevalent. It was normal to hide his cultivation here, where 7 or 8 cards were barely enough to make him a strong person. However, he possessed a super divine sense and the ability to see through all the cards of others. Whether it's a hidden treasure or a secret technique of hard cultivation, all the ways of seeking enlightenment have nowhere to hide from him. What? This person secretly practiced the Immortal Divine Skill, and there are 3 precious treasures hidden in the storage ring. Sorry. Goodbye. With just this little skill, you can pretend to be in front of me. Look at the moves. There's someone here who's secretly cheating on me, and this cheating seems to be related to me. Years later, as the demon, who had been dormant for thousands of years, pulled out his 48th card, Chen Ze calmly pulled out his 49th card. I'm sorry, your bottom card has already been seen through by me, so I still have a slight advantage. Novel keywords. Sorry, I'm a little better than you without a pop-up window. Sorry, I'm a little better than you. Download the full text. Sorry, I'm a little better than you. Read the latest chapter. Chapter 1. Next time definitely. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Next time definitely, Senior, I want to enter the treasure pavilion. At the entrance of the treasure pavilion of Xuanguang sect, a handsome young man dressed in blue and white disciple attire placed a low-level treasure order on the table in front of the old guard. The old man guarding the pavilion rubbed his sleepy eyes upon hearing the commotion, and then lifted his head. Name, which peak is it from? Chen Ze, the clouds rise from the peak. Chen Ze answered. Is it from Yunkafeng? Oh. I remember you just came last month. Go in, according to the old rule, you can only take one thing with you. The old man guarding the pavilion recalled the young man in front of him, with a hint of confusion on his face. I understand. Chen Ze responded and quickly walked towards the treasure trove. It is said to be a treasure trove, but in fact, it is a dilapidated place where the Xuanguang sect piles up debris that is not needed by the sect. And the disciples in the sect only need to spend 10 contribution points to exchange for a low-level treasure order, and they can freely choose something to take away on the first floor of the treasure pavilion. Due to being useless miscellaneous items and undergoing extensive screening by many people, there are fewer and fewer rumors of leaks in this treasure trove nowadays. Stepping into the treasure trove, what catches your eye are messy shelves and baskets filled with various kinds of scrap metal. At first glance, it looks like an abandoned warehouse in the world of mortals, which has been unused for several years by 9-tier pawnshops. Chen Ze did not carefully select, but directly bent down to pick up an iron bar that was 3 feet long and covered with a layer of green copper rust at the entrance. The damaged top-quality spiritual weapon is forged from black gold and iron. Looking at this iron bar, a piece of information flashed through his mind in an instant. Fortunately still there. Chen Ze breathed a sigh of relief and couldn't help but chuckle lightly. A month ago, he came to this treasure trove to pick up things and found this damaged spirit sword. However, there was something more important that needed to be exchanged at that time, so he didn't take this thing. At that time, in order to prevent being selected by others, he placed the damaged spiritual sword in a place that could be seen as soon as he entered the door. There is a saying that goes, the most dangerous place is the safest place. He was too clear about some things. The disciples inside the sect went into this treasure trove to pick up leaks, and they loved to dig through every corner, so the entrance was actually the safest place. Go back and repair it, polish the tip of the sword, and match it with a handle. It's still a high-quality spiritual weapon. Chen Ze looked at the damaged spirit sword and felt quite satisfied in his heart. You should know that in order to exchange for a top-quality spiritual weapon within the sect, it requires at least 200 contribution points, but now he has only spent 10 contribution points, which can be said to be making a lot of money. And with a top-quality spiritual weapon to protect him, his chances of passing the sect trial will greatly increase in 2 months. After selecting the damaged spirit sword, Chen Ze didn't rush out. Instead, he continued to search inside the treasure trove to see if there were any new hard goods. The damaged inferior spiritual weapon is made of black iron. A damaged sledgehammer made of pig iron. A rusty iron basin. A corroded long knife. It seems there isn't much new stock. After 15 minutes, Chen Ze stopped searching. There are over 1,000 miscellaneous items on the first floor of this treasure trove, and he looked at them all a month ago. Among them, there are only 10 items worth more than 10 contribution points. And there are only 2 items that can be considered as leak-level items. One was chosen by him last time, and the other was the broken spirit sword in his hand, which had no tip or handle. When you have more contributions in the future, go to the second floor and take a look. After muttering to himself, Chen Ze walked towards the door with his broken spirit sword. Outside the treasure pavilion, the old man with white hair guarding the pavilion was carrying a broom and sweeping the fallen leaves next to the tree at the entrance. A gust of wind blew by, and his blue robe fluttered with the wind, giving off a hint of an extraordinary figure. Upon hearing the footsteps of Chen Ze, he continued to sweep the floor and intentionally or unintentionally said, "There are basically some discarded items inside. If you come here, you will only waste your contribution points." The spiritual weapons in the sect's refining workshop are too expensive. The disciples have only been in the workshop for less than half a year and have not accumulated much. If you want a handy spiritual weapon, you can only try your luck here. Chen Ze pretended to be helpless and replied. Upon hearing this, the old man guarding the pavilion put away his broom and raised his head, his face full of admiration. "You are actually an ambitious person, somewhat similar to me back then. How about this? How about I give you some guidance? Senior, please speak up." Chen Ze's face immediately showed an excited expression of cooperation. The item on the top of the first shelf on the left side after entering the door. Hee. The old man guarding the pavilion lightly stroked his beard as he spoke, and a light flashed in his eyes. Upon hearing this, Chen Ze quickly recalled it in his mind. If he remembers correctly, the top of the first shelf on the left side after entering is a leaky bronze incense burner. His special ability judged this bronze incense burner as a damaged antique. Antiques have some value for ordinary people and are meaningless to cultivators, let alone damaged antiques. I thought I missed something. I didn't expect this old kid to be trying to trick me. Chen Ze cursed inwardly. After crossing into this world, he gained a special ability that allowed him to see through the attributes of items, characters, and even the attributes of things in other people's storage bags. He had seen the seemingly immortal old man guarding the pavilion before him last time. A cultivation that hones one layer of qi. At the age of 99, he doesn't even have a storage bag. He only has 3 spirit stones and 3 color novels that have been flipped through in his arms. He is well dressed and forced to commit crimes. Unfortunately, I have already come out. According to the rules, if I want to enter again, I have to take out another treasure order. Chen Ze said with a regretful expression on his face. Well, for the sake of your ambition, I'll make an exception and let you go in again. Leave 10 spirit stones with me so that I can explain to the sect. The old man guarding the pavilion leaned on a broom and said calmly. If anyone else heard this, they would probably be eager to hand over the spirit stone, then return to the treasure trove to pick up the leak, and finally leave with great gratitude. However, Chen Ze obviously wouldn't be fooled by this. Did the old boy show off his horse's feet, 10 spirit stones? You're thinking nonsense. After a sarcastic remark, Chen Ze smiled and said, Unfortunately, I didn't bring the spirit stone when I went out today. I still have time to go back and retrieve it now. The old man guarding the pavilion still spoke calmly, but there was already a hint of urgency in his eyes. I don't even have 10 spirit stones in total. Alright, next time, I'll make sure. Chen Ze didn't talk much nonsense to the old scammer anymore. After bowing his hand, he left straight away. Alas! Who would have thought of it in a big dream? I knew it all in my life. This cultivation emphasizes fate, and I really can't force it. It's because I have a good impression. Listening to the sighs of the old scammer behind him, Chen Ze's eyes twitched and his footsteps quickened a bit. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Invitation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Invitation. In a courtyard of Qingyang Sect's Yinshi Peak, Chen Ze took out a specially made sharpening stone to prepare to remove the rust on the damaged spiritual sword. He is a time traveler, born into a small family of cultivators in this world. The family spent a lot of resources to cultivate him, and finally allowed him to enter the qi refining stage before the age of 18, reaching the threshold for joining the Qingyang sect. Joining the Qingyang sect is almost equivalent to being admitted to the northern Qing dynasty in a previous life, so it is not an exaggeration to say that he is the pride of the entire family today. Of course, these are all appearances. In fact, he has exceptional talent. He successfully practiced qi at the age of 16, reached the first level of qi cultivation at 17, and was already in the third level of qi cultivation when he joined the Qingyang sect. Even if his family didn't give him so many resources, he could still reach the threshold of joining the Qingyang sect at the age of 18. There are two main reasons for hiding cultivation. On the one hand, it is because this world is too dangerous, with endless demons and monsters, and the competition among cultivators is particularly fierce. As the saying goes, the wood is beautiful in the forest, and the wind will destroy it. Not to mention other places, let's just talk about the Qingyang sect. It is said that a peerless Jianjiao appeared 5 years ago, but was assassinated by a powerful demon before he even stepped into the foundation building. As a hitchhiker, he really doesn't need to be too high. Profile. On the other hand, it is because in this world, asceticism is prevalent, and too many people love to hide their cultivation and treasure. There are too many old-in ratios, and he has to follow and hide. Of course, it is possible that the cultivation world is like this. The reason why he saw the prevalence of Godao was due to his eyes. If it were not for those eyes that could see through everything, then this cultivation world might also be a normal cultivation world. Cheers and cheers. Chen Ze kept grinding away the rust on the damaged spirit sword, and the sharp aura unique to Xian Jin Tai gradually emanated from it. At this moment, a somewhat familiar voice rang out from outside the courtyard. "Brother Chen, are you there? It's Senior Brother Wu." Upon hearing the commotion, Chen Ze instinctively hid the damaged spirit sword and replied, "Yes. Senior Brother Wu, wait a moment." After speaking, he brushed off the rust stains on his hands before walking towards the gate of the courtyard. Senior Brother Wu, named Wu Yang, was a disciple who joined the Qingyang sect at the same time as him. On weekdays, this Senior Brother Wu would give him some insignificant care. Although they seem to have a good relationship, they are actually superficial brothers. Upon arriving outside the courtyard, Chen Ze saw Wu Yang with a smile on his face. "What's wrong, Senior Brother Wu? What's up?" Wu Yang looked up and down at Chen Ze and replied, "Brother Chen, aren't our disciples going to undergo a demonic elimination test in 2 months? Although the risk of this test is not high, there are also disciples who suffer losses every year. For the sake of safety, I plan to earn more contribution points in exchange for the gathering Qi pill to attack the 4th level of Qi cultivation recently. Doing tasks such as fighting hybrid fields to earn contribution points is too slow, so I want to take on some simple demon elimination tasks." "What do you mean, Senior Brother Wu?" Chen Ze was puzzled and said. "It's like this. I just went to the mission hall and saw a task to eliminate low-level tiger demons. After completing it, I can earn 40 contribution points. The tiger demon's strength is probably around 4 levels of qi cultivation, and I cannot deal with it alone. If Junior Brother Chen is willing to join forces with me, then he has a greater chance, Wu Yang quickly explained. This. Chen Ze looked at Wu Yang with some hesitation in his heart. Wu Yang's true cultivation level is actually to cultivate 4 layers of qi, and compared to ordinary new disciples, Wu Yang has a considerable wealth. In his storage bag, there are not only 80 spirit stones, but also 1 top-grade spirit weapon and 2 mid-grade spirit weapons. Although it may not be easy to deal with a demon tiger with 4 levels of qi cultivation and insufficient spiritual intelligence with this foundation, it is definitely not an effort. Since it's effortless, what's going on with this kid finding himself to collaborate with? Chen Ze smelled a dangerous smell. This kid is not trying to use this opportunity to plot against himself, is he? Although Qingyang's sect prohibits cannibalism among disciples, in fact, there are so many disciples who die inexplicably every year within the sect. With this in mind, he asked, when is senior brother Wu planning to go? Let me see if he has any free time. 3 days later, after all, for the first time doing this task, we need to be prepared to some extent. When we kill that demon tiger, we can contribute 20 points each, which is equivalent to planting grass in the medicine garden for a month. Wu Yang's eyes were excited, as if he had almost reached the point of contribution. 3 days later. Chen Ze let out a thud in his heart. 2 days later is the time for the sect to distribute cultivation resources. This kid has arranged for himself to do a task that is not difficult for him in 3 days. Isn't this a clear plan to plot against him? Upon smelling the dangerous smell, Chen Ze immediately recalled his true cultivation. Practice Qi 5 layers. Due to the hierarchy of seniority based on cultivation in the sect, senior practitioners with higher cultivation levels are considered senior brothers, while those with lower cultivation levels are considered junior brothers. In order to prevent this kind of title from being overlooked, Chen Zeping conducts self-hypnosis every day, which is a practice of cultivating 3 levels of qi. Only when danger arises will he subconsciously recall his true cultivation, such as now. Practicing 5 levels of qi and adding 2 top-grade spiritual weapons, it should be easy to hold this senior brother Wu. Thinking of this, Chen Ze couldn't help but take another look at senior brother Wu. Compared to last time, the cultivation level, secret techniques, and property in the storage bag of this senior brother Wu have not changed much, huh? Not right. This senior brother Wu actually has something special in his storage bag. Wind Cone, a top-grade demon weapon, is crafted from the leg bones of a person who died in vain, and is a weapon for surprise attacks. High-quality magic weapon. Or are they skilled at sneak attacks? Where did this kid get it from? He wouldn't want to plot against me and then push it onto the cultivator of the demon gate, would he? At this moment, Chen Ze's mind was full of thoughts. To be honest, although his cultivation is to cultivate the 5th layer of qi, if he is ambushed by top-grade magic weapons, there is a possibility of capsizing in the sewer. Seeing Chen Ze still hesitating, Wu Yang pretended to be disappointed and said, "There are indeed some risks in this demon-killing mission. It's normal for you to have some concerns, senior brother Chen. It's a pity that within this sect, the only disciple I can truly trust is you, senior brother Chen. I even thought that in 2 months, you and my brother could fight side by side in the demon elimination test and overcome difficulties together, Sai. Well, since you're really worried, junior brother Chen, I won't take on this task." After saying these words, Wu Yang had no intention of leaving. Instead, he looked at Chen Ze with extremely complex eyes, which contained feelings of desolation, disappointment, encouragement, anticipation, and a little bit of resentment. "It's a pity that you don't act with this acting skill." Chen Ze looked at Wu Yang with a cold smile in his heart, but his face turned red as if he had been moved by him. Those who are close friends die. Senior brother Wu has such a high regard for me, I have no reason to refuse. I have taken on this task, little brother. Wu Yang's eyes flashed with excitement upon hearing this, and he immediately gave Chen Ze a heavy pat on the shoulder and said, "Okay. You are truly the person I admire." After completing this task, let's challenge the 4th level of Qi cultivation together, martial brothers. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Cloud Rise Peak. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 3 Cloud Rise Peak. After chatting again, Wu Liang turned around and left. After Wu Liang left, the smile on Chen Ze's face gradually disappeared. The reason why he agreed to Wu Liang's invitation is mainly because this senior brother Wu has some family background, and he is now very poor. If he can inherit the inheritance of this senior brother Wu, his chances of passing the trial will increase significantly in 2 months. Een Wind Cone. Chen Ze whispered softly while silently calculating in his heart. If he always maintains vigilance, he is 95% confident that he can prevent Wu Liang's surprise attack, but this grasp is far from enough. In the face of an enemy who is calculating his own life, he usually needs to have a 25% confidence in order to feel at ease. What is a 25% certainty? Simply put, if a similar Wu Liang jumps out halfway, he can also solve it. If 2 more Wu Liang jumps out, he still has the confidence to run away. In the words of a past life, this is called redundant design. It seems like borrowing a treasure from senior sister. After much thought, Chen Ze made a decision in his heart. Speaking of senior sister, we have to mention the peak where he is located, Yinqi Peak. There are 7 peaks under the jurisdiction of Xuanguang sect, among which Yinqi Peak is a newly built peak this year. The main name of the peak is Li Qingping, who was previously a true disciple of Xuanguang sect. A few years ago, she went out for training and disappeared without a trace. By the time she returned early this year, she had successfully entered the Golden Elixir realm and brought back a talented disciple named Xia Chuchan. The sect leader may want to expand the influence of Xuanguang sect, so she was allowed to build a new peak. As a newly built mountain peak, Yinqi Peak has a serious lack of cultural heritage and almost no benefits for its disciples. The cultivation level of the peak leader, Li Qingping, is also the weakest among all peak leaders. Therefore, no new external disciples who have joined Yinqi Peak this year are willing to join. He is the only exception. And there are 2 main reasons why he joined Yunqifeng. Firstly, as a hangover player, tranquility is important to him. For example, in the case of picking up leaks in the treasure pavilion, if he were in another peak, as long as he used the top-grade spiritual weapon that was picked up, it would inevitably cause a sensation. And there are no such concerns at Yinqi Peak. Secondly, neither Li Qingping, the leader of Yinqi Peak, nor Xia Chuchan, the true disciple, are as simple as they appear on the surface. To be honest, when he first selected the peak, he was startled to see the true cultivation of Li Qingping and Xia Chuchan. Li Qingping appears to be in the early stage of the Golden Elixir, but her actual cultivation is actually in the later stage of the Golden Elixir, comparable to Yuan Hongning, the leader of Tongtian Peak. And Xia Chuchan, as a disciple, appears to have just entered the foundation construction, but in reality, the foundation construction is very smooth. What's even more outrageous is that these 2 people still have a lot of treasures on their bodies. According to his inference, Li Qingping probably encountered the fate of the splashing sky while going out for training, which is why she entered such a realm in just a few years. It is precisely because her cultivation speed is too fast that she is so low-key. And by joining such a master's sect, he should be able to shine to some extent in the future. With such thoughts in mind, he joined Yinqi Peak and became the only child outside the gate of Yinqi Peak. Although I haven't been exposed to light for the past 6 months, it's still relatively stable. After such a long time of interaction, he also largely understood the personalities of this master-disciple couple. Li Qingping has a cold temperament and is a cultivation maniac. She usually stays in seclusion. In contrast, Xia Chuchan is extremely lively, coming to him every now and then to have a meal. Although senior sister Xia is a bit stingy, if my only junior brother understands with emotion and moves with reason, borrowing a treasure should not be difficult. After all, in the past 6 months, she has been eating and drinking for free here for dozens of times. As the saying goes, raising senior sister for 1,000 days, using senior sister for a while, it's time for her to give. Thinking of this, Chen Ze did not delay any longer and headed straight to the maple leaf pavilion where the summer and autumn cicadas lived on the mountain. After a moment, at the entrance of Maple Leaf Pavilion, Chen Ze lightly knocked on the courtyard door. "Senior Sister Xia, I'm Chen Ze. I have something to ask you about." As the words fell, the courtyard heard the crisp response of summer cicadas. "Senior Sister is not at home." Chen Ze. Without waiting for him to continue speaking, a gap opened in the middle of the courtyard door. Xia Chuchan poked out a small pretty face from the crack in the door, her eyes wary, and said, "Junior brother, you never come to me proactively. Are you here today to borrow a spirit stone from me?" I agreed in advance that I don't even have a spiritual stone. Senior sister was joking. "How could I possibly borrow a spirit stone from you, senior sister? I hate people who borrow spirit stones the most in my life." Chen Ze spoke with righteous words. Upon hearing this, Xia Chuchan breathed a sigh of relief and then opened the courtyard door. Chen Ze saw this and quickly intervened, squeezing in. "Tell me, what can I do to find senior sister? Is it difficult? What problems have you encountered during your cultivation? Do you need me, senior sister, to answer them?" Xia Chuchan was wearing a small red dress, with a small chest and crescent-shaped eyes. Her face was full of pride. If it weren't for borrowing the spirit stone, she would still be willing to see this junior brother. Who made Yinchi Peak so few people? She was too bored. "Senior sister, I have taken on a task to eliminate demons, but I am not very confident, so I want to borrow a better defensive spiritual weapon from senior sister." Before Chen Ze could finish speaking, Xia Chuchan shook her little head into a tambourine. No. Defense-type spiritual weapons. I don't have them." "Really not?" he asked again. "Not really. Summer and autumn cicadas cut their nails and answer." "No bullshit. The belly bag you're wearing today is called the Tianluo belly bag, and I know it can block divine sense exploration. Do you have any defensive treasures that I don't know? Not to mention what you hid elsewhere, there are only a dozen items hidden in your storage ring right now." Chen Ze cursed inwardly. Although he was slightly angry in his heart, a look of melancholy appeared on his face. "No, that's okay." After speaking, he arched his hand at Xia Chuchan. "Senior sister, thank you very much for taking care of me in the past 6 months. Junior brother, I have nothing to repay. When I go back, I will make some osmanthus cake to bring back. If I don't come back from this trip, senior sister can also have some days to eat." Xia Chuchan curled up her small mouth upon hearing the words. "Ah! So pitiful. Can't we practice well? We must go and take some demon-killing task." Chen Ze lowered his head and met Xia Chuchan's gaze, murmuring, "Senior sister, in 2 months, the sect will undergo a demonic elimination test. My cultivation is too weak. If I don't fight hard now, I may also die in the test. Senior sister, you may not know that the hope of my entire Chen family is pinned on me. They are frugal and reluctant to cultivate on their own, spending all their resources on me, which is why they sent me to Qingyang sect. If I don't work hard, how can I live up to my parents who are eagerly waiting at home, and how can I live up to the people who are frugal for me? So senior sister, you don't have to advise me. I know you're doing it for my good. Although Yinchi Peak has no additional spirit stones or contribution points compared to other peaks, I never regret it. Because I have at least met you here, senior sister. If you don't come back this time, please take a message to the family for me, senior sister." Before Chen Ze could continue speaking, Xia Chuchan's small face had completely collapsed and she pitifully said, "Stop talking. I got it. I'll lend it to you." "No, can't I rent you one?" Chen Ze was initially delighted upon hearing this, and then felt a bit speechless. Good guy, he has been acting in love for so long, and in the end, he still needs a spirit stone. Humph. This stingy guy. Sooner or later, deceive her into everything. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Xuanguang Mask. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Xuanguang Mask. Junior brother, this is the best defensive treasure on my body, senior sister. If it weren't for your life, senior sister, I would never have taken it out. As Xia Chuchan spoke, she carefully searched and took out a quaint blue disc from her storage ring. This item is called the Xuanguang Mask. As long as you inject spiritual energy into it, you can instantly form a layer of spiritual energy protection around you. With your cultivation level of 3 layers of Qi cultivation, this Xuanguang Mask can be used to resist attacks from the 5th layer of Qi cultivation. Is this the ultimate spiritual weapon? I didn't expect you, senior sister, to have such a treasure on you. Chen Ze pretended to be shocked and said. In fact, he knew very well that this was the worst protective treasure on Xia Chuchan's body. It has to be said that this world is really dying of drought and waterlogging. The worst on him are all top-notch spiritual weapons, and he can only pick up some scrap metal. I really don't know where senior sister Xia and her master got so many good things. Just take him to do it someday. Isn't it the ultimate spiritual weapon? You don't know, senior sister was trying to obtain this mysterious light shield. Seeing Xia Chuchan's tearful expression, Chen Ze knew that this senior sister was also preparing to perform a tragic drama. After quietly listening to a difficult treasure hunt story full of twists and turns and logical loopholes, Chen Ze looked guilty and said, Senior sister, I know this treasure is very important to you, so it's appropriate for me to spend some spiritual stones, junior brother. You can just tell me how many spiritual stones there are in a day. 10 pieces of inferior spirit stones per day. How do you feel about paying an additional deposit of 100 pieces of inferior spirit stones? Xia Chuchan tentatively asked. How is it going? I don't think much of it. Chen Ze didn't speak, but directly took out the storage bag and took out all the spirit stones inside. There are a total of 16 spirit stones. Then he felt in his pocket and found 2 spirit stones. Finally, he dug out a spiritual stone from his boots. And throughout the whole process, Xia Chuchan not only did not stop, but also waited for a while longer, with a posture that Chen Ze could accept as she took out the spirit stone from her underwear. Senior sister, I only have a total of 19 spirit stones. I rent 10 spirit stones a day. As for the deposit, I may only be able to give 9 spirit stones. Chen Ze held 19 spirit stones and looked helpless. This is not that he pretends to be poor, but that he is indeed poor. On the day of joining the Qingyang sect, the family gathered 100 spirit stones for him, and there was also an inner armor that could defend him and conceal his cultivation. Afterwards, when he arrived at the sect, he bought 4 Qi gathering pills with 80 spirit stones, and 1 spirit stone bought some miscellaneous items, leaving only 19 spirit stones. In addition to these 19 spirit stones and inner armor, he still has 1 Qi gathering pill, 10 sect contribution points, 2 top-grade spirit weapons that were found missing, and 1 lower-grade spirit sword issued by the sect. This is all his property. If it weren't for his extreme poverty, he wouldn't have accepted Wu Liang's invitation to do any demon-killing missions. That's all. Junior brother, you're too poor. After counting Chen Ze's spirit stone with both hands, Xia Chuchan blinked her eyes and finally hesitated, okay. That's it then. When will you need the Xuanguang mask? 3 days later, I'll come and pick it up. Chen Ze's heart was settled. Although some spiritual stones were put in, the goal was ultimately achieved. Although Xia Chuchan is a bit stingy, she still has a bit of human touch. You should know that the value of top-quality spiritual weapons is quite considerable. Each ordinary top-quality spiritual weapon costs hundreds of lower-quality spiritual stones, while defensive top-quality spiritual weapons are even more valuable. Xia Chuchan can rent him 10 spiritual stones per day, and only accept a deposit of 9 spiritual stones, which is not in vain for him to raise this senior sister for so many days. Well, you must come back alive. Xia Chuchan gave a warning. I understand. Chen Ze solemnly agrees. Junior brother, I'm hungry. Xia Chuchan suddenly covered her stomach and whispered softly. Let's go eat in my yard. Chen Ze is very witty. He didn't feel much surprised by this request. Then it's disrespectful. Xia Chuchan's eyes smiled like crescent moon again. The technique of concealment. On the way back to his yard, Chen Ze looked at the petite figure of Xia Qiu Cicada ahead and suddenly thought of something in his mind. Recently, it seems that there have been thieves outside the various peaks, and many disciples have lost their spirit stones, and senior sister Xia also knows the technique of concealment and has a paranoid liking for spirit stones. Did she steal it? The more Chen Ze thought about it, the more he realized it was possible, and this sentence couldn't help but jump out of his mind. Senior sister, you don't want anyone to know about your stealing of the spirit stone, do you? As soon as this idea appeared, Chen Ze shook his head quickly. It's too reckless. Although senior sister Xia is not smart, her strength is not weak. In contrast, it is more practical to prevent one spiritual stone from being stolen. Although he doesn't have a spiritual stone on him now. 3 days passed by in a flash. 3 days later, Chen Ze's courtyard door was knocked on again. Junior brother Chen, it's time we set off. Chen Ze, who was practicing in the room, immediately jumped up upon hearing the commotion and walked quickly to the outside of the courtyard. The person who came is Wu Yang. Chen Ze looked up and down, and compared to 3 days ago, there was no change in the storage bag of Wu's senior brother except for 3 more chi-gathering pills just issued by the sect. Sure enough, what senior brother Wu said before about taking 3 days to prepare is all fake. It's only true when the sect releases resources and then plots against him. But this also relieved him. He originally thought that if Wu Yang had made some preparations and added other powerful trumps, he would simply not go. Now naturally, he no longer has such concerns. Senior brother Wu, it may take some time to remove the demon. I'll go talk to senior sister and you can wait here for a moment. I'll go and come. Chen Ze naturally said. Junior brother Chen, please do as you please. Wu Yang said with a smile on his face. Half an hour later, Chen Ze took the Xuanguang mask from Xia Chuchan and put it into the storage bag. In addition to the Xuanguang mask, he also carries a top-grade defense spirit weapon small stone shield and a newly processed top-grade spirit sword Xianjin sword. 2 top-notch spiritual weapons and 1 top-notch spiritual weapon, this configuration can basically rival the top immortal second generation in the outside world. Junior brother Chen, let's go. Wu Yang seemed to have thought of something when he suddenly reminded him, by the way, junior brother Chen, I heard that there have been thieves in the sect recently, and many outer disciples have lost their spiritual stones and elixirs. After speaking, he glanced intentionally or unintentionally at the courtyard behind Chen Ze, which was self-evident. Upon hearing this, Chen Ze casually replied. I've heard about it too. Don't worry, senior brother Wu. I carry all my family information with me, and no one can steal it. Wu Yang gave a faint smile upon hearing this, and a hint of subtle cunning flashed in his eyes. Hee, I'll carry it too. It's safer to carry it on my own. Thank you to the loyal fans of Tianchen for their 500-point reward, thank you for the 1200-point reward of 202108271639044, and thank you for the 5000-point reward of the virus. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Senior brother, what do you mean by this? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Senior brother, what do you mean by this? On the way down the mountain, Wu Liang explained the details of the task to Chen Ze in detail. Simply put, a demon tiger with a strength of about 4 levels of qi cultivation appeared near Qingyang town, which is related to Qingyang sect at the foot of the mountain. This demon tiger not only attacked livestock, but also attacked passing caravans a few days ago, killing many people. After finding out the approximate location of the demon tiger's lair in Qingyang town, they reported it to Qingyang sect and requested that they solve the demon problem. Qingyang sect assigned tasks to these external disciples. Junior brother Chen, if we encounter that demon tiger later, I will be responsible for the main attack, and you can restrain it. After Wu Liang finished his introduction, he enthusiastically added a sentence. Okay, then junior brother can follow behind senior brother and get some light. Chen Ze didn't act pretentious anymore and agreed directly. More than an hour later, the two arrived in a dense mountain forest 10 miles east of Qingyang town. This is the place guided by the residents of Qingyang town. After carefully searching for a moment, the two quickly discovered the feces left by the demon tiger in the dense forest. Then they continued to graze the vines and fruits, and about half an hour later, a huge cave located next to a mountain stream appeared in their sight. Dozens of various white bones are piled up next to the entrance of this cave. These white bones shine with a strange beauty under the erosion of the nearby mountain stream. It should be here. A faint light flashed in Wu Liang's eyes, and he deliberately increased his pace. At the same time, he took out the standard lower-grade spiritual sword of Qingyang sect from his storage bag. Roar! With the sound of his footsteps, there was an earth-shattering roar of a tiger in the cave, shaking the leaves of the forest to a rustling sound. Before the two of them could continue to approach, a huge figure emerged from the cave with a gust of demonic wind, crashing and falling 10 feet away for a lifetime. This is a red-eyed white-haired demon tiger that is twice the size of a normal tiger. In addition to its large size, this demon tiger also has a pair of extremely long fangs exposed, making it particularly ferocious. Roar! As two humans entered their territory, the demon tiger let out another earth-shattering roar. The crimson tiger's eyes were filled with a fierce and ferocious expression, as if eager to tear the two people in front of them apart. Feeling the pungent smell, Wu Liang let out a light breath and then nodded slightly at Chen Ze. Chen Ze nodded in response. Wu Liang didn't hesitate any longer when he saw this, and took the initiative to raise his sword and face the demon tiger. Compared to ordinary people, cultivators are several times faster, and almost in an instant, they reached the side of the demon tiger. Then a cold light flashed through, and he slashed his spiritual sword straight towards the neck of the demon tiger. The demon tiger's reaction speed was also extremely fast. Almost at the same time, its front paws, the size of a fan, were lifted and padded towards Wu Liang's side. Wu Liang naturally couldn't trade injuries with the demon tiger. When he saw the tiger claws attacking, he immediately drew his sword and dodged sideways, then looked towards Chen Ze not far away. Chen Ze understood and immediately took out the standard lower-grade spirit sword to charge towards the demon tiger from the other side. Roar! The demon tiger was furious, using its claws and tails together, sweeping around with terrifying energy. Watching the tiger tail sweep towards him like a steel whip, Chen Ze leaned back and dodged with his bow. Bang! With a muffled sound, a small tree with a bull mouth behind it was swept in two by this tail. Seeing the attack fail, the demon tiger roared loudly and launched another attack, appearing extremely violent. The two kept dodging and looking for opportunities to counterattack. The roar of tigers, the sound of strong winds, and the sound of sharp blades breaking through the air were constantly heard. Although they appeared to be both dangerous and dangerous several times, both of them were quite restrained and did not use any power beyond the third level of qi cultivation. Wu Liang's actual combat experience is quite good. It seems that he should often engage in combat with others. Chen Ze fought against the demon tiger while secretly observing Wu Liang. After a moment, the demon tiger revealed a flaw and was struck on the back by Wu Liang's sword, with a large amount of bright red tiger blood instantly shooting out. After being injured, the demon tiger not only did not weaken, but also became even more violent. Under the crazy attack, it quickly caused chaos around it. Chen Ze and Wu Yang had a good understanding, so they both chose to temporarily avoid the sharpness. Although both of them were dodging and not attacking, the demon tiger's wounds grew bigger and bigger due to its intense movements. Soon, its massive body was completely stained red with blood. Seemingly sensing his weakness, the demon tiger let out a low roar and prepared to flee towards the depths of the dense forest. Humph. I want to run now, it's too late. Wu Yang sneered at this and immediately blocked the path of the demon tiger, while Chen Ze immediately followed suit. The two of them fought for a while and soon left 7 or 8 wounds on the demon tiger. As the eyes of the demon tiger gradually dimmed, the two of them coincidentally chose to step back a distance to prevent the demon tiger from fighting back at the brink of death. After dragging on for a while, the demon tiger's massive body collapsed due to excessive bleeding. After gasping heavily for a moment, it was completely motionless. Got it. Junior brother Chen, I didn't expect you to have a lot of experience in dealing with monsters. After adding another sword to the crucial part of the demon tiger, Wu Yang loudly praised it. His praise comes from the bottom of his heart. In his eyes, this Chen junior brother was honest and straightforward. He didn't expect that when hunting monsters, he would also use some strategies. When I wasn't in Xingyang sect, I would occasionally go hunting monsters with my family elders. However, compared to you, senior brother Wu, I am still quite inferior. Chen Ze smiled and complimented, his face full of joy and relaxation after completing the task. It's rare for our senior brothers to have such a tacit understanding during our first cooperation. Okay, junior brother Chen, why don't you dismember this demon tiger here? I'll go to the cave and see if there's anything else. Wu Yang suggested in a natural tone after glancing at the corpse of the demon tiger on the ground. Okay, if we give the sect a head, we should be able to deliver it. We can sell the remaining corpses and exchange them for spirit stones. Chen Ze chuckled and then squatted down to focus on cutting the head of the demon tiger with his spirit sword. At this moment, he turned sideways towards Wu Yang, but his heart was extremely alert. Because as an old Bai, he knows too well when it's suitable for a surprise attack. As long as Wu Yang harms his intentions, it is impossible to miss such a great opportunity. As he had imagined, there was no sound of Wu Yang's footsteps going to the cave beside him, but an eerie silence fell. If it weren't for high vigilance, this anomaly would be difficult to detect. And this silence only lasted for a moment. The next second, a sharp sound of breaking through the sky suddenly sounded. Chen Ze, who was focused on cutting the tiger's head, grinned at the sound and instantly took out the Xuanguang mask, then poured spiritual energy into it. Kang! With a loud roar, Chen Ze suddenly turned back and saw Wu Yang holding a lacquered black short cone in his hand, piercing the spiritual protection created by the Xuanguang mask. Seeing this scene, Chen Ze's gaze was deep and he said coldly, "Senior brother Wu, what do you mean by this?" End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Go with peace of mind. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Go with peace of mind. Seeing that the blow failed, Wu Yang's fierce expression on his face instantly disappeared, replaced by shock and shock. Just finished a big war, so it should be Chen Ze's most relaxed time. In addition, this person is cutting the tiger's head, and his spirit sword is still stuck in his head. He should have been flawless in his surprise attack at this moment. How could he have failed? What's going on with this layer of spiritual protection? Is this the ultimate protective spirit weapon? It seems that only this level of defensive spirit weapon can firmly block his full strike with top-grade magic tools. At this moment, Wu Yang's mind was spinning. As for Chen Ze's questioning, he certainly won't answer. After all, it's now time to make a desperate decision. Excellent defense-type spiritual weapon. Chen Junior brother, you really surprised me as a senior brother. Wu Liang gave a fierce smile, then quickly withdrew the Yin Wind Cone and stabbed towards the layer of spiritual energy protection again. The ultimate spiritual weapon is certainly powerful, but it also depends on who is using it. Chen Ze's cultivation level is only 3 layers of Qi cultivation, and he has just experienced a battle. Being able to use top-notch spiritual weapons once is probably the limit. So as long as he attacks again or twice, Chen Ze still has only one dead end. When the time comes, even this top-notch defense spirit weapon will be his. As Chen Ze watched the Yin Wind Cone thrust again, his right hand quickly extended and instantly grabbed Wu Liang's wrist. In the next second, the cultivation of the 5th level of Qi cultivation will burst out with full force. Gaba. With a crisp sound, Wu Liang's wrist bone was twisted open, and the Yin Wind Cone slipped out of his hand and fell to the ground. The sinister expression on Wu Liang's face instantly turned into terror and terror. Being able to directly twist his wrist bone, Chen Ze's cultivation is still above him. How could that be? This kid has been pretending. Wu Liang couldn't accept it for a moment. Since he started, he has been hiding his cultivation. Others only know that he is at the 3rd level of Qi cultivation, but in fact, he is at the 4th level of Qi cultivation. Isn't it still easy to deal with a junior brother who has practiced Qi for 4 layers, combined with sneak attacks using top-grade magic weapons? But who would have thought that Chen Ze could hide even more than him? It's just a matter of hiding the top-notch spiritual weapon. Surprisingly, his cultivation level is also above him. What's even more bizarre is that he has top-notch spiritual weapons in his hands, and his cultivation is stronger than him. It's all like this, yet he's still so vigilant. Is there any reason behind this? It's over. In just an instant, Wu Liang's heart turned to ashes. After entering the sect, he was cautious and low-key in his actions, but ended up with blood mold. The first time he did such a thing in the sect, he encountered someone even more meticulous. Is the outside world so dangerous? Sigh. Let everything rest. Unfortunately, there is no regret medicine to take in this world. Despite his despair in his heart, his strong desire for survival still made him instinctively shout, "Junior brother. I was wrong. Please spare me." However, before he could finish speaking, Chen Ze had already picked up the Yin Wind Cone on the ground and fiercely stabbed it into his forehead. Wu Liang's figure trembled, his eyes instantly widened, and then he completely collapsed. "Senior brother, go with peace of mind." Chen Ze pulled out the Yin Wind Cone and said lightly. To be honest, if Wu Liang found something wrong and immediately retreated, he would have to put in some extra effort. However, Wu Liang was too arrogant and couldn't make a surprise attack. He even wanted to do it again, and he didn't even pay attention to him. Now it's okay, one shot to death, there's no need for any other means. After a light sigh, Chen Ze took off the storage bag from Wu Liang's body. Although he had long known what was inside, he still opened it and counted it. 100 lower-grade spirit stones, 5 Qi gathering pills, 1 upper-grade spirit sword, 1 middle-grade spirit shield, and 1 medium-grade spirit weapon level dagger. In addition, there are some healing pills and low-level spell runes. 100 spirit stones and 5 Qi gathering pills. Enough for me to use for a while. Chen Ze's face was full of smiles. Usually, external disciples use 2 Qi gathering pills every month to reach their peak. One is issued by the sect, and the other is obtained by oneself. It can be purchased with spirit stones or exchanged with contribution points. But he's different. His talent far surpasses that of an ordinary disciple. Although he also uses 2 Qi gathering pills a month, over the past few months, he feels like he's almost exhausted. Now with these 5 Qi gathering pills and the 3 Qi gathering pills just issued by the sect, he has a total of 8 Qi gathering pills. 8 Qi gathering pills, he can try using 4 in a month. If he can truly absorb all of it, he may be able to step into the 7th level of Qi cultivation 2 months later before the start of the demonic elimination trial. Practicing Qi at the 7th level, not to mention being a new disciple of the external sect this year, but looking at the entire external sect, they are not considered weak. Such strength should not be difficult to pass through a trial aimed at new disciples. Not to mention that he still has 100 inferior spirit stones. He can still rent some treasures from senior sister when the time comes. In addition, Wu Liang's 3 spiritual weapons can be sold on the black market around Xuanguang sect, and can also be exchanged for 1 or 200 spiritual stones. Use 4 Qi gathering pills per month. Chen Ze felt quite disappointed in his heart. When he was in the family, he could only use 1 gathering Qi pill a year, which was a priority for the family to supply him with resources. It's really inflated to think about using 4 in a month now. After a moment of emotion, Chen Ze carefully handled the scene and then rushed straight towards the sect. Half an hour later, Chen Ze rushed into the Xuanguang sect mission hall with a panicked expression on his face. The deacon in the hall frowned slightly and said in a deep voice, "Why are you panicking?" Deacon Ren. It's not good. Wu Liang, senior brother Wu from Xianyu Peak, and I have encountered a scout from the demon sect. Go and take a look. Chen Ze began to pant heavily at this point, with a hint of fear still lingering on his face. Upon hearing this, Deacon Ren suddenly stood up and said with a focused tone, "Detective of the demon sect. Don't worry, speak slowly." Okay. It's like this. My senior brother Wu and I took on a task to eliminate the tiger demon. After completing the task, we saw someone sneaking around on our way back to the sect. So, senior brother Wu took me forward to question. I didn't expect that person to suddenly explode. My senior brother Wu and I were defeated, so we had to split up and run away on the way back. The disciple thought about the person's methods and speculated that it was probably from the demon sect. Chen Ze told the story he had already made up. Upon hearing this, Deacon Ren immediately said, "Where is it? Take me over and take a look." He doesn't have any worries. Since that person can make the external disciple in front of him escape, his cultivation level is probably not as good as his. Okay. Chen Ze immediately agreed and then left the task hall with Director Ren. More than half an hour later, in the roadside grass at the foot of Qingyangzong Mountain, Chen Ze and Director Ren found Wu Liang's body. Senior brother Wu. Upon seeing Wu Liang's body, Chen Ze's face was filled with sadness. Deacon Ren quickly walked to the side of the body, crouched down, and began to carefully examine it. After a moment, he lifted his head and took a deep breath, his expression condensed and he said, the center of his eyebrows was pierced by a magic weapon, and there was still some evil energy remaining inside. This is indeed the work of a demon cultivator. Thank you for the 500-point reward from Yunshui Heaven. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Magic Road. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Magic Road. What does that person look like? Director Ren asked again. He has a short stature, is as thin as a stick, and has mischievous eyebrows and eyes. Chen Ze pretended to ponder for a moment before returning. Deacon Ren nodded slightly, but let out a light sigh in his heart. Actually, he just casually asked. Since the demon scout has killed someone, it is highly likely that he has already fled far away. Even if he knows what that person looks like, it doesn't make much sense. Take your senior brother's body back. Yes. Chen Ze responded and walked over to the Deacon Ren, carrying Wu Liang's body on his back. After returning to Xuanguang sect, Chen Ze tossed around for an hour and finally completely fooled this matter. It is worth mentioning that the 40 contribution points of the demon slaying mission ultimately count towards him. After handling this matter, Chen Ze returned to Yunqi Peak. Although it was completely dark by now, he still prepared to go to Maple Leaf Pavilion first. There is a saying that goes, borrowing and returning, borrowing again is not difficult. In the future, he will have to borrow other treasures from his senior sister, but his reputation cannot be ruined by momentary greed. As soon as he arrived at the entrance of Maple Leaf Pavilion, before knocking, Chen Ze saw a petite figure walking back and forth in the room under the candlelight. Is senior sister worried about my safety to the point where I can't sleep at night? After joking about himself in his heart, Chen Ze gently knocked on the courtyard door. Senior sister, have you slept yet? I'm here to return the Xuanguang mask. As soon as these words were spoken, the candlelight in the room instantly dimmed. After a few more breaths, the candlelight lit up again, and then with a soft creaking sound, Xia Chuchan pushed open the door and walked out. After opening the courtyard door, Xia Chuchan looked at Chen Ze with sleepy eyes and a hint of resentment, saying, I was just about to go to bed. Can't I come back tomorrow? It's not a short while. Senior sister, I feel uneasy when I take someone else's things, so I came here as soon as I arrived at Yinshi Peak without even going home. Chen Ze speaks with integrity and integrity. After speaking, he took out the Xuanguang mask from the storage bag and handed it to Xia Chuchan. Xia Chuchan took the Xuanguang mask with great satisfaction, and then a hint of hesitation appeared on her face. Before she could speak, Chen Ze took the initiative and said, Senior sister, let's not refund the deposit for now. Maybe in the future, I will also borrow treasures from you, senior sister. That's good. Upon hearing that the deposit did not need to be refunded, Xia Chuchan instinctively rejoiced and immediately agreed. However, after agreeing, she vaguely felt that something was wrong. Before she could react, Chen Ze arched his hand and said, then junior brother won't disturb senior sister's rest. Goodbye. After speaking, he turned around and left, and after a moment, he disappeared completely. After leaving Maple Leaf Pavilion, Chen Ze still didn't go back to his small courtyard. Instead, he took advantage of the darkness and went to a hidden place at the foot of the mountain to retrieve the previously hidden storage bag. Although Deacon Ren did not investigate him carefully, he had to be prepared in this regard, so during the day, he had everything he needed before going to the main peak. Now that he has retrieved these items, he can't help but breathe a sigh of relief. As the saying goes, the golden belt of killing and setting fire inherits the inheritance of senior brother Wu. In the next 2 months, he can devote himself wholeheartedly to cultivation. Unlike before, there are still farming tasks to earn contributions and maintain daily expenses. Time flows like water. A month passed by in a flash, and after this month of hard work, Chen Ze not only stepped into the 6th level of Qi cultivation, but also advanced a lot. That morning, he didn't practice as usual. Because today is the day when the sect assigns demon elimination trials to new disciples this year. After the allocation is completed, 1 month later will be the official start of the trial task. When it comes to the demonic trials, one has to mention the Devil's Way. The demonic way originated from the ancient demon clan tens of thousands of years ago. At that time, the ancient demon tribe invaded this realm and was eventually suppressed and sealed by the joint efforts of various creatures from this realm. Nevertheless, those demon clans have left behind a large number of magical arts and traditions in this world. These magical techniques can be further divided into 6 categories, namely blood magic, soul magic, desire magic, corpse magic, Nian magic, and the most mysterious heavenly magic. Among them, the blood demon road relies on drawing blood for cultivation, the soul demon road relies on drawing living souls for cultivation, the desire demon road relies on drawing essence for cultivation, the corpse demon road relies on drawing corpse gas for cultivation, and the Nian demon road relies on deceiving others to draw the power of faith for cultivation. As for the heavenly demon way, Chen Ze is unaware. Anyway, one thing can be certain is that behind every demon master, there must be a sea of corpses and blood. Because of this, the demonic way has been banned from the cultivation world since its inception. However, due to the extremely low threshold for practicing magic, there are many people in this world who resort to any means for the sake of strength. Therefore, this magic is repeatedly forbidden. After tens of thousands of years of development, the power of the demon realm has reached a point where it can almost compete with the cultivation world. As the largest cultivation sect with a radius of thousands of miles, Xuanguang sect naturally has an obligation to eradicate the demonic cultivation within its sphere of influence as much as possible. The so-called Demon Elimination Trial is said to be a large-scale clearing activity aimed at low-level demonic cultivation. Although it is aimed at low-level demon cultivators who have just entered the demon realm, it is inevitable that there will be casualties every year. As for the specific reason, Chen Ze is also unknown. But this matter will definitely be discussed by the external sect elder in charge of assigning trial tasks to the main peak later, and he will know it then. After a little tidying up, Chen Ze left Yinchi Peak. 15 minutes later, he arrived inside the main peak hall. The disciples from each peak in the hall are clearly divided, and they are gathered together in a low voice to discuss this demon elimination test. As the only child of Yinchi Peak, Chen Ze didn't stand alone, but instead leaned over to the group of outer disciples of Tongtian Peak. However, he did not forcefully squeeze in, but instead listened to others chatting while taking advantage of this time to assess the cultivation progress of these external disciples. Compared to 4 months ago, the cultivation of these external disciples has improved by at least 1 or 2 levels. In fact, this is also very normal. After all, the qualifications to join the Xuanguang sect are not too bad. And the strongest of these individuals have all reached the 5th level of qi cultivation, clearly in the position of holding the moon in the hearts of the disciples of each peak. However, these are just ordinary external disciples. Near the center of the main hall, there are 6 more people. Although these 6 people do not belong to the same peak, they gather together to chat and laugh. Among them, the weakest cultivator has reached the 6th level of qi cultivation, and the strongest young man in white has even reached the 8th level of qi cultivation. In Chen Ze's eyes, the young man in white clothes stands out among these external disciples. In addition to their strong cultivation, the equipment of these 6 people is also quite luxurious. Almost everyone has a top-notch spiritual weapon. He knew without guessing that these 6 people must be the 2nd generation of immortals in the sect. These 2nd generation immortals grew up in the Xuanguang sect from a young age. Under the care of the sect elders, the resources they obtained were far from comparable to those of foreign disciples, and having such a cultivation background is considered normal. Chen Ze silently estimated in his heart that if he could step into the 7th level of qi cultivation in a month and borrow a top-notch spiritual weapon from his senior sister, his overall strength should be able to keep up with those 2nd generation immortals. Just as he was thinking about these things, an old man in green clothes walked out from behind the main hall. Silence. The old man glanced at the disciples below and spoke calmly. His voice was not high, but it was clear and resounding in everyone's ears. As the words fell, the entire hall instantly fell silent. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Demon Elimination Trial. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Demon Elimination Trial. See Too Much Elder. The young man in white, who had practiced qi for 8 layers, was the first to react and bowed to the old man in green. See Too Much Elder. Other disciples from outside the sect followed suit and bowed. Although they have never seen this old man in green, since the young man in white calls him Elder Yu, it is highly likely that he is the elder of the outer sect, Yu Changming. Yu Changming nodded slightly and then spoke. I came to you today mainly to assign you the task of demonic trials. After pausing for a moment, Yu Changming continued, this demonic trial mission lasts for 10 days. You 60 people are divided into 6 groups, each group going to a nearby city to participate in the trial. The first group, Tongtian Peak Fangyan, Xianyu Peak Gaxiong, Longxin Peak Wangyue. 10 of you are responsible for Shiyang City, which is 300 miles southeast. The second group, Guoxianqing from Tongtian Peak, Dong Kue from Xianyu Peak. You 10 people are responsible for Luoyang City, which is 200 miles northwest. The third group, Group 4. After a moment, Yu Changming read over the list of 6 groups of personnel and their responsible locations. Chen Ze was assigned to the 5th group and will be arranged to participate in the demon elimination trial in Ruifeng City, 300 miles due west, a month later. This Ruifeng City is a huge city with a population of 1 million, and he had heard of it before joining the Xuanguang sect. Due to the continuous spread of magical arts in the mortal world, these 6 mortal cities give birth to many magical cultivators every year. What you need to do is to find those who have just entered the magical realm and kill them. Speaking of which, Yu Changming took out a black disc from the storage ring and continued, this object is called a magic disc, which can sense the existence of magic energy. 1 month later, before you leave, the sect will distribute one of these magic discs to each of you. Then, you can use this disc to sense magic energy and search for low-level magic cultivation. Exploring the demon plate. So there's still this thing. Many disciples began to discuss in a low voice. At this moment, an external disciple of Tong Tian Peak asked a question that everyone was concerned about. Elder Yu, what are the abilities of those novice cultivators in the demon realm? Usually, it's below the 4th level of qi cultivation. Yu Changming answered calmly. Later, his face became more serious and he added, however, there are also some exceptions. Let me tell you this, low-level magic cultivation can also be divided into 2 categories. One type is those who are not mentally determined. These types of magic cultivators cannot control their emotions, let alone their demonic energy, and are easily detected by the demon plate. In addition to this type, there is also a very determined type of magic cultivation. These types of magic cultivation not only have stronger strength, but also can completely suppress the magic energy. The likelihood of you using a magic exploration disc to detect them is very small. Your main task in this trial is to eliminate the first type of magic cultivation, but you may also encounter the second type of magic cultivation during this process. However, in general, the second type of magic cultivation will not attack you at this point. Yu Changming's face softened slightly. Like us, no matter what type of cultivation, in order to become stronger, one must join the demon sect. And the demonic sect is not very willing to accept the first type of cultivation. So they chose to conduct trials with us simultaneously, and the content of their trials was to survive from your hands. In other words, only those who are still alive in the city are eligible to join them after your trial is over. In order to pass the trial of the demon gate smoothly, the second type of cultivation usually does not choose to actively cause trouble during the trial period. I see. But aren't we doing this to help the demon gate screen disciples? Another disciple couldn't help but ask. It's like this, but there's nothing we can do. The kind of magic cultivators who can't control their emotions can lose control at any time and become monsters who only know how to kill. These types of magic cultivators are extremely harmful to mortals, and we must do our best to eradicate them. Yu Changming replied. So. The disciples of the outer sect below nodded in agreement. Chen Ze also felt a sudden realization in his heart, and at the same time, he understood why there were casualties in the annual trials of Xuanguang sect. Elder Yu said that in general, the second type of magic cultivation would choose to be low key and not actively provoke trouble, but since it is a general situation, there must be something special. After everyone had figured out the causes and consequences of this demonic trial, Yu Changming continued, since it's a trial, there will naturally be rewards. After discovering the demon cultivators and killing them, you can go explore the demon disc and absorb their magical energy. The person who absorbs the most demonic energy in each group can earn 300 points of contribution and an opportunity to enter the scripture pavilion to select spiritual skills. Ranked second, with 200 contributions and an opportunity to enter the sutra pavilion to select spiritual skills. Ranking third, contributing 100 points. As for those who come back alive, each person will be rewarded with 50 contribution points. Upon hearing this reward, all the disciples in the hall were breathing rapidly. In normal times, external disciples who want to enter the Sutra Pavilion to select spiritual skills have to contribute 500 points. After obtaining powerful spiritual skills, they also need to have supporting resources to assist in cultivation. For example, the famous advanced spiritual skill of the sect, Qingyang Xuanhua Ji, requires swallowing Xuanhua Dan to assist in cultivation, and these resources also need to contribute a lot. If you can achieve first place in the trial, not only will you have advanced spiritual skills, but you will also have a contribution point in exchanging supporting resources. By then, as long as you practice diligently, you can master an advanced spiritual skill that can greatly enhance your overall combat power. If you come in second place, you can also master advanced spiritual skills by working hard to earn more contribution points. As for the third, then we can only exchange for a top-quality spiritual weapon. Although not as good as the top two, it also has a considerable attraction for ordinary disciples. More importantly, this trial does not guarantee that the strongest will always win first place. Those demonic cultivators who have just entered the realm of magic, the second generation of immortals who have practiced 6 or 7 levels of qi, and these ordinary external disciples who have practiced 3 or 4 levels of qi have also been killed. When the time comes, it's best to work harder. They spend 4 hours searching for magic cultivators every day, and they only spend 6 hours. In addition, the grouping method of Elder Yu is also somewhat learned. There are 6 groups of 10 people in each group. Among these 10 people, one is the second generation of immortals in the sect, one is the strongest practitioner of the 5th level of qi in a certain peak, and the other 8 people are selected from each of the remaining 4 peaks. The top 2 strong players in each group have a significant advantage, but the remaining 8 can work together in pairs, with one person guaranteed to compete for the top 3. So overall, as long as they operate well, each of them has hope of competing for the top 3. Upon this thought, a look of longing appeared in the eyes of all the external disciples present. Seeing this scene, Yu Changming gave a faint smile. The reason why the sect needs to announce the allocation plan 1 month in advance is to leave time for this group of new disciples to prepare and play games. You should know that in addition to talent and resources, cultivating immortality also requires mental character, which is one of the important purposes of the trial. Alright, I have said everything that needs to be said. If you have any further questions, you can ask the external deacon. After saying these words, Yu Changming turned around and left the main hall. And as soon as he left, there was a sudden commotion in the main hall. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Rewards. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Rewards, an opportunity to enter the Sutra Pavilion and select spiritual skills. There are also contributions. In the crowd, Chen Ze's heart was filled with excitement. Not to mention selecting spiritual skills in the Sutra Pavilion, the contribution points alone are very attractive to him. Because as long as he has 100 contribution points, he can exchange for a mid-level treasure token and then go to the second floor of the treasure trove to choose something to take away. On the first level, he can even produce top-quality spiritual weapons. On the second level, it's not excessive to produce 1 or 2 top-quality spiritual weapons, is it? Obtaining top-quality spiritual weapons through normal exchange requires at least 400 contribution points. Under the premise of being alive, protect 2 and strive for 1. Chen Ze quickly established the goal of this demonic training in his heart. Whether this kind of trial can make it to the top 2 is largely determined by luck. He was a bit lucky and encountered more demonic cultivators. It's normal for him to accidentally get in the top 2. As soon as he finished, he began to scrutinize his competitors in the same group. The 5th group consists of 10 people, among which the strongest is Shao Qin, the second generation of immortals from Suizhu Peak, with a cultivation level of 7 levels of qi. Ranked second is Yan Qin from Longxin Peak, who has a cultivation level of 5 levels of qi cultivation. As for the other 7 people, 4 practice 4 layers of qi, and 3 practice 3 layers of qi. Shao Qin is the second generation of immortals, with the strongest cultivation and the best equipment. His advantages are self-evident. Yan Qing is a disciple of Longxin Peak. As Longxin Peak can exchange spiritual stones for certain contribution points every month, disciples who are generally willing to join Longxin Peak are born into large cultivation families in the surrounding area. This type of person is not inferior to spirit stones. Sometimes, the resources that can be mobilized outside the Qingyang sect are more than those of some immortal second generations within the sect. Therefore, although this person only has 5 levels of qi cultivation, they are also a great enemy. In addition, the overall strength of the 4 peaks and the Tongtian peak is the strongest, with both disciples practicing the 4th layer of qi. Although disciples of Luoyinfang are generally not very good at birth, they have a variety of tasks, so their practical experience is very rich. There is nothing to say about the disciples of Danqi Peak. Although their cultivation is poor, they have a variety of elixirs and talismans. Xianyu Peak. Chen Ze looked at the disciples of Xianyu Peak in the 5th group, only to realize that there was only one Xianyu Peak disciple, who was a female disciple practicing qi for 4 levels. At this moment, everyone was discussing, but she looked around with a bewildered expression. I forgot, senior brother Wu from Xianyu Peak has already driven to the west. Chen Ze's heart suddenly became clear. In theory, their group should be 11 people. He belongs to a solitary family, but senior brother Wu is gone, so there is also an extra solitary family on the side of Xianyu Peak. So perhaps he should team up with this female disciple. Oh, that's not right. Is this person Su Weiran from Xianyu Peak? Chen Ze suddenly remembered some of the funny conversations that senior brother Wu had with him before. At that time, he said that there was a strange phenomenon among the new disciples of Xianyu Peak. They always like to take some injured small animals from the mountains back to Xianyu Peak to take care of them. That's all. One time, when they went out to do a demon-killing mission, this person actually picked up an injured little demon and was scolded severely by their master. Is it this person? Seeing the innocent appearance and harmless demeanor of this female disciple, as well as her wealth belonging to the level of poverty, Chen Zexin interrupted and concluded that this female disciple was likely Su Weiran, whom senior brother Wu had mentioned. This woman has a good talent. With so many miscellaneous skills, she can still cultivate up to the 4th level of qi cultivation. However, this personality is only suitable for being friends and teammates. It's better to forget about it, especially in this kind of demon elimination test. Chen Ze muttered to himself in his heart. Seeing Su Weiran looking towards him at this moment, with a face that was gathering courage, he didn't even want to turn around and left the main hall. He. Why are you hesitating? I'll make the decision for you. Goodbye. After leaving the main peak hall, Chen Ze continued to calculate. In fact, he doesn't have much advantage compared to others in dealing with non-mainstream demonic cultivators. Because he can see it, other disciples can also sense it using the magic probe. So to widen the gap with other disciples, he has to deal with potential magic cultivators that cannot be detected by the exploration disc. And among these potential magic cultivators, there must be strong ones that he finds difficult to deal with. After much thought, he decided to go to Ruifeng City to step on the stampede points before starting his training. On the one hand, several important goals can be identified in advance. At the beginning of the trial, he can quickly accumulate early advantages by solving these goals. On the other hand, he can also first see who there are and which places are more dangerous, and try to stay away from them when the time comes to avoid capsizing in the sewer. In addition to visiting the site, he can also sell Wu senior brother's inheritance and purchase the necessary items for the site when he goes down the mountain. However, this matter should be done sooner rather than later. After all, tapping is to obtain information, and information has timeliness. After much thought, he decided to go to Ruifeng City again in 20 days. At night, in a quiet courtyard on the main peak, Shao Qing stood respectfully in front of an elegant middle-aged man. This middle-aged man is his father Shao He, who is also the deacon of the inner gate. Qinger, please keep this safe. Shao He took out a storage bag and handed it to Shao Qing. After receiving it, Xiao Qing inspected it and found that in addition to a top-notch spiritual weapon and 3 spiritual talismans, there was also a portrait with the name and address of the person in the painting written below. "Dad, this portrait is..." Although Xiao Qing had a vague guess, he still asked a question. "It is a demon cultivator who is dormant in Ruifeng City. His current cultivation level is 6 levels of Qi cultivation, and in a month, he may reach 7 levels of Qi cultivation. The magic energy you gain from solving him is equivalent to solving more than 10 low-level magic cultivators. But if you can always lead, then there's no need to find trouble with this person, the child understands." Xiao Qing responded with a deep voice. He has no slightest aversion to his father's care. Because this is his advantage, if there is an advantage, it is foolish to give resources to others. "What? Do you have any concerns?" Seeing the hesitation in Xiao Qing's eyes, Xiao He asked again. "Dad, the family power of Long Xinfeng Yan Qing is quite strong. Do you think you will let the strong family members intervene in this trial?" Xiao Qing expressed his inner concerns. "It's just spiritual weapons and treasures. If Yan Qing calls a foundation-building cultivator from his family to secretly accompany him, then he will still test his hair." Xiao Yun smiled lightly upon hearing the words and said, "Don't worry, this trial is related to the interests of both Qingyang's sect and the Devil's Way. If the Yan family dares to do so, it will be undermining the tacit understanding that Qingyang's sect and the Devil's Way have finally formed. Even if our Qingyang sect doesn't trouble them, the demon side will still find a way to retaliate. The Yan family wouldn't take such a big risk for the trial of a younger disciple, that child can rest assured." Xiao Qing's concern in his eyes was lifted and replaced by confidence. In this 5th group, only Yan Qing deserves his attention, and as for the others, he doesn't take them seriously. What about pairing up in pairs? The magic energy in the magic exploration plate cannot transfer to each other. Simply put, 2 people working together cannot act separately, and they can only gather their magic energy in the end. If you want to cooperate, you have to stay together from the beginning, and in this case, the search efficiency is only slightly better than searching alone. On the other side, in a small courtyard of Longxin Peak, Yan Qing was burying his head in writing letters to his family. In addition to preparing some resources for the family, he also plans to arrange for some people to go to Ruifeng City to inquire about intelligence first. Also, it's best to capture some low-level demon cultivators alive and lock them in a secret place. After the trial begins, they can go directly to that place to harvest. He knew very well in his heart that this was probably the limit that the family could do for him. So he didn't make any more excessive demands. Unfortunately, the family doesn't have such a thing as a demon exploration plate. Yan Qing muttered softly to himself. Although he felt a bit regretful, he didn't think he had to compete for first place. For him, stabilizing the second place is enough. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. A Panoramic View. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. A panoramic view. After the task of demonic trials was assigned, new disciples from outside the sect began to prepare for the trials. 20 days passed in a blink of an eye. That morning, in the small courtyard of Yinqi Peak, Chen Ze slowly opened his eyes. I've practiced Qi for 7 layers now. It seems that my talent is even better than I imagined. Feeling the change in his own cultivation, Chen Ze was quite satisfied. Looking back now, the previous 4 months were indeed somewhat neglected. Not only was the resources not fully utilized, but also a lot of energy was wasted on some fragmented tasks of planting spiritual grass. However, it's not entirely his fault. In the past, he could only use 1 gathering Qi pill in his family for a year, but after arriving at Qingyang sect, it became 2 pills per month. In his eyes at that time, this was already quite luxurious. But who would have thought he could absorb 4 Qi gathering pills in a month? My talent is also considered a heavenly pride, isn't it? Chen Ze began to silently compare himself with the arrogant sons of heaven circulating in the cultivation world, and the more he compared, the more his smile grew on his face. After a moment, Chen Ze stood up to pack up. It's time to go to Ruifeng City for a visit today. This trip is expected to take several days, so before departure, he needs to go and tell his senior sister that when the provincial senior sister came to grab a meal, she found no one at home. Besides, he also wants to go to the main Peak Exchange Pavilion to exchange some things. After packing up a few sets of mortal attire and visiting Maple Leaf Pavilion again, Chen Ze arrived at the main Peak Exchange Pavilion. The Exchange Pavilion is a place where disciples of Xuanguang sect exchange their contribution points for items. Here, as long as you have contribution points, you can almost exchange for all the items of Xuanguang sect. Entering the Exchange Pavilion, Chen Ze walked straight towards the steward of the pavilion. Deacon, disciple Yun Chifeng Chen Ze wants to exchange his contribution points for 4 Mingmu pills and 4 Jimu talismans. Approaching the deacon of the garrison, Chen Ze spoke respectfully. Both Mingmu Dan and Jimu Fu are used to enhance eyesight. In fact, with his cultivation of 7 levels of qi, his eyesight is already quite amazing. Even if separated by 100 meters, he can still see flying flies and insects in the air. As for the strength of others, he can naturally see it clearly. But it's still not enough. Due to his need to leave some time for preparation, this time he can only stay for a maximum of 2 to 3 days to visit the site. Ruifeng City is a large city with a population of 1 million, covering an extremely wide area. It is absolutely impossible to take a look at millions of people in the city in just 2 or 3 days. But if there are pills and talismans that can enhance his eyesight, he can try to read as many as possible. This is also a method he came up with to enhance his special abilities. 1 Mingmu pill has 5 contribution points, and 1 Jimu talisman also has 5 contribution points. 4 Mingmu pills and 4 Jimu talismans have a total of 40 contribution points. Yun Chi Feng Chen Ze. You still have 50 contribution points. After exchanging the Mingmu pill and Jimu talisman, you still have 10 contribution points left. The deacon looked at the ledger expressionlessly and said, then he got up and went to the warehouse of the exchange cabinet. After a moment, he walked over with 4 talismans and a bottle of elixir, and handed it to Chen Ze. 4 Jimu talismans and 4 Mingmu pills, please keep them safe. Okay, I'll bid farewell to that disciple. After receiving the elixir talisman, Chen Ze turned around and left the exchange pavilion. Both Jimu talismans and Mingmu pills are niche items, so their prices are not expensive. Besides the Jimu talisman and Mingmu pill, he also had 3 divine talismans obtained from Wu Yang in his storage bag. Having these cards and pretending to be ordinary is enough to ensure that this trip is safe. 1 hour later, Chen Ze changed into a mortal costume and arrived at Xuanguang town at the foot of the mountain. Later, he found a caravan heading to Ruifeng City in Xuanguang town and joined in. Following the caravan all the way, the outline of a distant giant city gradually appeared in his sight at noon the next day. This is Ruifeng City. Looking at the giant city in the distance, Chen Ze let out a light breath and pushed the hidden cultivation technique of breath mask to the extreme. This breath-covering technique is the first secret technique he cultivates. Perhaps it is precisely because he can see through the details of others that he is particularly afraid of being seen. It is also because of this that he spent a lot of energy cultivating this secret technique earlier, and now he has reached the pinnacle of cultivation. With this secret technique combined with an inner armor that covers his breath, he now looks no different from an ordinary person. After following the caravan into the east gate of Ruifeng City, the first thing that caught the eye was the patrol officers and soldiers of the brigade. At the same time, the low voices of some nearby residents also reached his ears. What's going on lately? The government's investigation is so strict. Did you forget? The day of the demon slaying is approaching. Oh. I almost forgot. No wonder so many people have been missing recently. and the emotional cultivation has become rampant again. As he listened carefully to these discussions, a majestic middle-aged man wandering near the city gate caught his attention. The blood demon technique has 3 levels of chi cultivation, including the blood demon technique, the mastery of the spirit technique blood control technique, the possession of 3 spirit stones, the beginner level of the blood demon technique, and the lower level magic weapon bloodthirsty dagger. After hesitating for a moment, the middle-aged man suddenly made up his mind and entered the city amidst the crowd. So it was entering the city. Chen Ze was somewhat surprised. He originally thought that this middle-aged man wanted to escape the city and avoid the limelight, but he didn't expect that he would voluntarily come to the city to participate in the trial. It has to be said that he underestimated the determination of these demonic cultivators to become stronger before. Chen Ze didn't care about this person, but continued to follow the caravan along the street. After a moment, the caravan's carriage arrived at the Xuanguang Tower in the East City. This Seeking the Wind Tower is 7 floors high and is the tallest restaurant in the Eastern City. Downstairs, it is the busiest street in the Eastern City, spanning several kilometers. There are various shops along the street, and on weekdays, there is a constant flow of people on this street. Xuanguang, we have arrived at the place. The leader of the caravan arrived at the side of the carriage, extremely hospitable. Thank you, Mr. Wang. I'll be looking for you when I go back. Chen Ze gave some silver and then got off the carriage. Today, he is dressed in white, with a jade pendant hanging from his waist. Coupled with his handsome appearance, he is like a wealthy and elegant young master. Before he could enter the wind-seeking tower, the waiter inside took the initiative to greet him. Sir, do you want to eat or stay? If you need anything, just let me know. Arrange a spot for me on the top floor by the window, along with a few special dishes and a pot of good wine. After Chen Ze finished speaking, he directly took out a silver ingot and threw it to the shopkeeper. He lacks spirit stones, but he doesn't lack this thing. After seeing the silver ingot, the shop assistant immediately smiled happily. Okay. Please come inside. Under the guidance of the shop assistant, Chen Ze quickly arrived at the 7th floor of Xuanguang building. Sir, please wait a moment. The dishes and wine will be delivered soon. After arranging seats for Chen Ze, the shop assistant went downstairs. After he left, Chen Ze got up and walked to the railing. At this moment it was noon market, and the streets below were bustling with people, stretching all the way to the location of the distant city gate. Chen Ze calmly took out a bright-eyed pill and swallowed it, then pasted an extreme-eyed talisman on his body. After the elixir's medicinal power was resolved, coupled with the blessing of the Jimu talisman, his eyesight suddenly increased several times more. After taking a light breath, he began to gaze into the distance. Under his strong vision, he could see the thousands-long street from the city gate to the wind-seeking tower in full view. However, just a slight glance at the crowd on the street made his pupils contract slightly. Thank you to the helmsman of 202108271639084424, and thank you for the 100-point reward of 2020308230359577. Please collect and recommend tickets. End of this chapter.